Hello, my name is John Siegfried. I am publishing a book on Veterans Day, 11/11/11, on Vietnam. It's called 6 Degrees of the Bracelet, Vietnam's Continuing Grip. The reason for the title is upon finding a bracelet that my mother-in-law had worn for over 20 years for a POW who ended up in Hanoi at the Hanoi Hilton for 5 years. I subsequently came up with the title 6 Degrees of the Bracelet because 6 degrees of separation means that everyone is connected within 6 steps in the entire universe. Therefore, the bracelet, because it connected me with my mother-in-law and certainly Lieutenant Colonel Myron Donald, whose bracelet my mother-in-law wore for all those years, the 6 degrees of separation concept transcends anyone who is within 6 steps of anyone else in the world. So that is the premise of the book, how we're all connected. Today I'm interviewing a Marine Corps forward observer from Vietnam. His name is Dave Martin. He is also a writer. He wrote a book called Crazy Asian War that, in my opinion, is one of the better nonfiction works from a soldier who was in country about their experiences. And again, Dave was a forward observer in the Marine Corps from 67 through 69, I believe.
66, 67.
66 and 67. So Dave is going to, we're going to have a discussion today about Dave's experiences growing up and motivations for entering the service and his Vietnam experience and what he did after the war. So Dave, good morning. I guess the first thing, as we did in the book, if you could just tell me about your growing up, where you grew up and what it was like.
I grew up in a township about 2 miles outside of Trenton, you know, it's a suburban area. There was woods and fields no more than a couple blocks away, so you know we had a urban, a suburban, rural type of an environment to grow up in. It was you know, middle class. You know, I went to high school, played a lot of sport. Matter of fact, I'd rather play sports than do anything else in my entire life. I was on the cross-country team, wrestling team. Yeah, I got in a lot of trouble. Nothing like really serious because they never caught me, basically. And then after high school, I went to junior college for about a year and a half. Got tired of that. Got tired of the girlfriend. Got tired of the economic hassle trying to afford college. So I joined the U.S. Marine Corps, and you know, that's a thumbnail sketch of my upbringing.
Okay. Now, what were some of your motivations for enlisting? I remember you told me the story about you and your buddy.
Yeah, well, I was always brought up, you know, it's a patriotic climate. You know, you should always, you know, serve your country in whatever capacity. I have 6 brothers, 5 of them were in the service, in the armed forces, so, you know, it's a natural that I would be inclined to go that way. But when the Vietnam War broke out, I got this patriotic fervor, decided I'd defend my family and friends, whatever reason that a 19-year-old guy could possibly understand about the world. And I joined the Marine Corps, volunteered for it, and when I went down to the recruiter, I asked for the infantry, I asked for the Marine Corps, the infantry, and Vietnam. I wanted to do all 3, and they granted me my wish.
Really? Now tell me about your friend who, if I recollect, you both went to the recruiter at the same time?
Yeah, he's been bugging me to join the Marine Corps for a few months, so one day I read this newspaper article about Marines massacred on Hill 400 in Vietnam, whatever hill that was, wherever Vietnam was actually. It really pissed me off to the max, so I burst into his class and I said, "Come on, Bob, let's go." So we ran a half mile down to the recruiter with the newspaper in hand. We told him we wanted to enlist, and then you know, we asked him how long, and you know, he asked us, like, well, you know, when can we be ready? And I go, well, I got to go home and tell my parents, like, maybe 2 hours, you know. Right. But he said it doesn't work that way, and it took 2 weeks. But, you know, 2 weeks we were in the Marine Corps at Paris Island boot camp.
Now, how did your parents react to your quick decision?
My mother cried, as I assume most mothers would, and as she broke down, my father was in complete shock, like thinking probably things a father would, like maybe I oversold this patriotism, thing to him too much, because right then, the whole fear of his son going into war, became evident to him. But they knew I was strong-willed. I was 19. They couldn't stop me, so they told me I was basically pretty nuts, and and then the last night in Trenton, they threw a big family party and we all got drunk. And the next day I was headed to Parris Island, South Carolina.
Okay. All right, so tell me about Parris Island, your experiences there, and how long you were in boot camp.
Boot camp was accelerated back then. It was an 8-week, 7-day-a-week program. You didn't have Sundays off or anything. And they pushed us to the max. They were probably more strict and rougher on us than pre-Vietnam, because they really needed troops to go to the Vietnam War. I was always a wise ass throughout my life, and I found discipline pretty tough in the Marine Corps, but the physical part was easy because I was a jock, so that was easy. But the discipline part was tough. They knocked me out a couple times, and that gets your attention pretty fast, And back then they were allowed to do that, and nobody ever thought about writing their congressmen or calling their mothers or nothing. You just sucked it up and said, "I guess I'll keep my mouth shut."
Kind of like Catholic school that I went. Did you go to public school or Catholic school?
Yeah, public school.
Public school. Catholic school, they knock you down, and you didn't tell your parents,
right.
Because the parents would have agreed with the teacher.
Yeah, that's It's probably like Catholic school, but with a lot tougher nuns.
Yeah, right. So with boot camp, now you said it was an accelerated 8-week course. How many guys were you in there with? Was it a platoon size? Was it a company size? How many guys were?
Well, they broke it down as a platoon, so there was 80 of us in a platoon, but there was 3 platoons in a company and 3 companies in a battalion. I believe it was like that, and then there was 3 battalions in the regiment. So there was a few thousand Marines being trained at any one time down at Parris Island. Not everybody was on the same schedule. Like you're always about a week,
right.
Behind the platoon that was in front of you.
So for the clarity of the viewers, because I didn't really pick up on this until I started getting into the Civil War back in the late 80s and early 90s, is it goes squad, platoon, company, battalion, and then regiment, brigade, division, and
There's
corps.
no brigades in the Marine Corps, that's an Army term. But it goes regiment, and then it goes right into a division.
Okay, the Marine Corps, there's no brigades in the Marine Corps. Okay.
The Marine Corps is actually a very small outfit. There was, at any one time, there's maybe 200,000. Even during the Vietnam War, there wasn't much more than 200,000.
Versus your understanding of how Army was, what, over 2 million in Vietnam total guys that were drafted or enlisted?
Well, the Army, they had, I don't know how many they had. They had 700,000-800,000 probably in the Army. At any one time, if there was 80,000 of us in Vietnam as Marines, the rest of them were all Army basically. So you're talking about 400 and some thousand soldiers,
At any one time?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. At the peak, where it was 500,000.
Right.
Okay.
67, 68, 69, probably into 70 a little bit too.
Okay. All right. Tell whatever you feel comfortable about, and this mirrors what we did with your interview in the book. Dave is in chapter 2 of the book, which I deemed Maelstrom, because between January of '67 and December of '69, there was over 70% of the casualties of the entire war in those 3 years. And so chapter 2 is called Maelstrom, and Dave is the second interview in chapter 2. So whatever you feel comfortable to discuss relative to once you went in. What port did you go into?
Landed in Da Nang.
In Da Nang, okay. And Da Nang was I Corps?
Yeah, I Corps, absolutely.
Vietnam was split in amongst 4 core areas. I Corps was from the DMZ that butted up against North Vietnam to somewhere in the Central Highlands. And then 2 Corps went from the upper part of the Central Highlands or middle part down to I don't know the exact dimensions, but 2 Corps was the biggest land area.
Right.
of Vietnam, and then 3 Corps, and then 4th Corps was in the lower Mekong. So, so you went into Da Nang. Tell me about Da Nang.
Yeah, landed in Da Nang, proverbial open the plane door, 100+ degree heat, it slaps you in the face. You know, we get off, we get to our unit. It took about 2 days to get to our unit, which was about 20 miles southwest of Da Nang. And there I joined the battalion. I was with 3rd Battalion, 9th Marines, and we were chasing hardcore VC companies, and they were actually reinforced by North Vietnamese. And we had a lot of you know, battles and skirmishes in that area for about 5 months. Then the Marine Corps deemed to move us up to the DMZ area. So all of 3-9 moved up to the DMZ, and we just fought North Vietnamese up there.
3-9, explain to the viewers, 3-9 meaning?
3rd Battalion, 9th Marines, 3rd Marine Division.
Okay.
You know, it's a unit. It's about 1,000 men in that battalion. There were supposed to be 1,000, although we seldom operated with that many because of casualties and things.
Okay.
Then we moved up to the DMZ area, and that's when the action really got you know, quite interesting, to say the least. You know, it was like nothing but a horror and a terror show up there. We were in a lot of you know, pitch battles. We won every battle. Matter of fact, in the whole war, we won every battle. But yeah, I'm not gonna say that we won every battle like easily. And sometimes, you know, when it was over and we're still around, that's when it, you know, kind of sunk in that these North Vietnamese don't play up here. They were a regular army. They outgunned us. They outmanned us. They had fire maneuver tactics, which were pretty damn good. And the only way we were better was because we had better training, better motivation, I think, and then also our tradition of the Marine Corps never losing a battle. We just weren't going to be the first to do it, but they tested us like pretty damn bad.
So is it your opinion, what you went through and what you know now, particularly with writing your book, is it your opinion that the North Vietnamese studied our tactics and adjusted to them?
They studied them in the field as the war was unfolding. You know, just the way we did, but they did the same thing we did. If they lost a battle to us, they would try and figure out how that happened and what they could do. They came up with some tactics of their own. One of them was, you know, fighting, you know, holding on to the web belt. It's pretty much of a term, whatever it means in Vietnamese, but their idea was to get so close to us that our artillery and our air support would be nullified, and they would be right in our face, like, you know, 10, 20 yards away. That's when they would spring ambushes. They were right in our face when they would attack, you know. They got as close to us as they could to get rid of our air superiority and our already, you know.
Because the artillery was very effective.
Yeah, our artillery was deadly accurate. You know, everybody in the Marine Corps took things seriously, and we had naval guns too from some naval ships offshore. They could reach where we were, and they were deadly accurate. The U.S. Navy has some hell of a good artillerymen, but so does the Marine Corps, you know.
Did you lose any friends over there? Any buddies?
Yeah, I lost you know, quite a few over there.
Anybody from your hometown?
No, but somebody from boot camp though. You know, a guy named Bobby Sands. He got killed over there. He was my boot camp with me.
What was his position? What was his MOS?
He was a 81 mortarman. The fire base that we were on, Camp J.J. Carroll, got mortared. When we were out in the field, I was out in the field with a company operating against the North Vietnamese. I thought that we were the ones who were in danger, and it turns out they rocketed and mortared the J.J. Carroll, and they, you know, they killed him and wounded some other guys too.
Okay. Tell me, when you got out of the service, how did you get involved with Veterans Affairs?
When I left the Marine Corps, I was pretty pissed off at this country in general. I was pissed off at the American people, the veterans organizations, you know, you name it. I was pissed off everybody because of the way they treated us. And I always had a temper. I wasn't the type of guy who was going to take it, so I got into a lot of fights. After doing that for a couple years, I realized this was ridiculous. So I stumbled into one job after another, but, you know, gravitated towards social work. Started working as a social worker for the mentally retarded, and then, you know, got a job in the Veterans Affairs, and I stayed with that for 30 years.
So once you got into Veterans Affairs, tell me just briefly some of the things that you were exposed to. I remember one of the guys telling me you would go up and stand on the desk and yell and scream until you got what you needed for your for the guy you were representing. Is that an accurate depiction?
Well, maybe in the early days it might be a little bit overstated, but yeah, I was pretty. I could be pretty dramatic with the VA or VA officials, and I never took no for an answer from them if I thought that, you know, me or one of my friends or one of my clients deserved the benefit. You know, I was like relentless with them, you know. And I wanted to be their advocate because I knew these guys, and I knew they weren't like a bunch of idiots and jerks like they were portrayed. You know, they were men that stood up for their country, that did things that other people, you know, didn't have the guts or the willingness to do, or didn't feel the patriotism or whatever. I don't know what it was, but, you know, but they did, so I was always on their side. And it was a worthwhile career.
If you were to guess, how many veterans did you assist or represent or take under your wing all those years? Was it hundreds? Was it thousands?
It'd have to be the thousands, and it would be like, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000 easy, maybe even more than that, because like 30 years, I used to see, well, some of the numbers were duplicated, but I used to see 4,000 vets a year. Even if you cut it in half or a third, that's still a lot, you know?
Wow.
If it's only 1,000 new people a year, that's 30,000 people.
Now, when did you retire?
Just about 3 years ago.
So, current day, tell me about your family. Tell me you and you're married.
Yeah, it's my, yeah, my wife and I, we're still married. I have a son that's 23, will be 24 soon. I got two daughters, one 31, and the other's 32. The two daughters, one lives in Tennessee, the other in California, so I don't see them too much. Although I just saw my California daughter a week ago at Yankee Stadium. She ran in a charity benefit,
really?
You know, for kids with cancer. So
was that by design when you met her up there?
Yeah, she gave me a call and said she was going to come from California to run in, and so I drove up there and met her.
That's great.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank Dave for being part of this today. We've known each other for almost 15 months now. Our first interview, our first get-together was in May, actually, of 2010, and we did his interview in June of 2010. But I want to give Dave a copy of the book, which is again called 6 Degrees of the Bracelet, Vietnam's Continuing Grip. The cover has a map of Southeast Asia, which includes North Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and South Vietnam. And the 4 bracelets on the book are a Killed in Action or black bracelet from a Navy SEAL in Philadelphia, a MIA bracelet from a Special Forces gentleman from New Jersey who was still missing in action, a gentleman who Dave served with, Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Larry Two-Step Brown, who is 100% plus disabled, still suffering from wounds and many of the presumptive diseases as a result of Agent Orange, a la the orange bracelet, which I came up with after doing the interviews. And last but not least, the Colonel Myron Donald, who started the book, and he's at the bottom. So Dave, I wanted to give you this book. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, John. It's a great book. I've read it, and it is a great book, and everybody should buy a copy of this and read it.
Thank you. Thank you.